Well, the really interesting question is the person who did this, do they even have a passport? Are they even a citizen? Who knows anymore? We've entered a new era of insanity where these kind of things can happen, and we don't even know who did it. They may not have a social security number. This recently in London, there was I can't remember if it was a stabbing or an acid attack. Something heinous happened in London only a month or a month and a half ago to a little girl. And they were talking about how they couldn't find the guy. And London has the most CCTV in the world. And as much as I believe the UK is a failed society, the Met Police are pretty good at wrapping up the violent people pretty quickly. They do respond and find them. It's unfortunate they only come after the event. You'll get stabbed. But they might catch the guy once you're dead, which is kind of nice. But they couldn't find this person who did this extremely heinous crime. And I made the very obvious point. The only reason they cannot find somebody who did something so heinous in the middle of the day in the middle of a city like London is because they have no idea who this person is. He has no social media, no passport, no bank cards, no footprint. He came on a boat. He turned up. He murdered a native. And he's vanished. Because who knows it? Who is he? You have a grainy CCTV image and absolutely nothing else. So, I mean, maybe not maybe. I've been called it a few times. It must be semi-true conspiracy theorist. But when you tell me things like this, just sounds like people trying to game the system. And who are these people? Do they even have American passports or citizenships or any interest in the country at all? Or are they just there to exploit whatever they can exploit?
You're okay there.
And another thing I think that's getting scary about the world, which is also an interesting thing, and perhaps this is a modern thing, I don't know. But I see a lot of these crimes and a lot of things happening. And I particularly pay attention to British crime because I feel more British than American. I spend most of my time there. And you see stabbings on trains and all of these crazy things happening every single day. Shootings, and London's getting really bad. And I was talking to someone and I said, we're at the point now where you almost just have to avoid broke people. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. I'm saying you can't get on a train because there's someone on that train who can't pay their bills and is on the edge. That's just the reality of it. You can see it. Someone bumps into them and they just pull a blade and start stabbing people. You can't walk around in crowds. You can't go where there's huge gatherings because there ends up being a murder or a stabbing or a riot. It's getting to the point where you become more elitist because you're saying, well, I just need to avoid all of the people who don't have a lot of money, and I can avoid 99.9% of the world's problems, besides the government, because then they come for you.
Yeah.
But it's getting that way, and I don't feel like, you'll know better than me, that the world used to be that way. The common man would be a good person and everything was fine and they loved their family and they had a degree of respect. But in certain towns in England, especially now, if you try and go anywhere and people aren't affluent, they've lost all sense of morality. They just think, oh, okay, well, it just becomes a free-for-all. And it's dangerous. It's getting more and more dangerous to be around or just do a common thing or a normal thing. Public transport, malls, anything. It's getting crazy out there.
Let me ask you a question. Is that, in your view, because there are no consequences for these people?
I think...
Or they've been minimized to a degree where they can get away with it?
That's certainly part of it. But I do believe that humans are intrinsically good. And I think that as we're divided further and further down the scale, which is what's happening, we just end up finding an enemy of some kind. I believe that when you remove the homogeny of society, whether it be race, religion, anything, when you have nothing at all to unify or bind people anymore, you add on the pressure of people not being able to pay their bills. You add on the pressure of people slowly realizing how unfair this world is and how unfair all the systems we're supposed to believe in are. I think there's just a lot of pressure on people to just... I don't think a lot of people can take pressure. You can talk from jail. We can talk about our jail. There's a lot of people who wake up and they say... Let's take it this way. If you're an immigrant, let's say, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, because I try and put myself in other people's positions, right? I try and pretend I'm them. If I was an immigrant and I grew up in a strictly Islamic country in a war zone, I'm going to be battle-hardened because I've seen terrible things happen. And I'm going to have this view of the West as this utopia of beautiful women and money and all this other garbage, right? And I'm going to leave my land, and I'm going to go to England, and I'm going to realize that, one, I don't have really very much money. Other people may have some money, but I don't. Two, nobody really wants to give me a job because I don't have the work ethic they expect of me. Three, the women don't look at me as anything. So all these women who I have a bad view of, I view them as promiscuous because that's what I've seen in the music videos. Yeah. And I go up to them and I'm like, hey, and they're like, go away from me. That offends me. What do you mean go away? Why are you telling me to go away? Because I have this promiscuous view in my mind. You put me with 10 other guys who have no job and we stand around on the corner all day. Like, how is this going to end anything other than crime? How is this going to end any other way? Because you get to a point, especially when you tell them the punishment for what happens to them is probably better than how they lived at home. You're going to say, well, get rich or die trying. And that's inside of every single man anyway. So when you add in the war zone and these other societal levels and these other psychological levels, they just don't care anymore. And how can you police that? How can you stop that? It's scary because the police come afterwards. They can't. The police come afterwards. That's the problem with all of this.
Well, you know what? In America now, they don't even want the police to come. I mean, it's gotten so bad. And, you know, people have said to me, they had this whole movement. I don't know if you remember one. It was defunding the police. And
genius idea.
You know, I said to them, I said, let me ask you a question. You know, Michael, what do you think about it? You know, you don't like the police. Just stop for a minute. Let me ask you a question. I'm on the street again, right? I'm doing what I'm doing. Rudy Giuliani, everybody knows him. He comes to me, he says, Michael, don't worry about it. You know, if we lock you up on a RICO case, you're going to get out right away. We're not going to give you any bail, no problem, you know? And don't worry about it. Maybe we'll give you a year in jail. Do you think I'm going to become a better person when I hear that, when I'm a criminal to begin with? Of course not.
Yeah.
When there's no consequences to your actions, you're going to go wild.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't understand. You need law and order. And I think you believe that also. You've got to have law and order. There's no question about it. And when we're talking about this, and Andrew, I want to be clear with people. We're saying these things because we see something going wrong and we want to fix it. You know, when I go on a rant about our government, because I see them lying and I see them doing it to the detriment of the people, and that's why I get upset, because I happen to love my country.
Yeah.
You know, I was born and raised there. Hey, you know, I did what I did, but I understand when I went to jail, I deserved to go to jail back then. You know, different than you.
Yeah.
I deserved it when I went to jail. But I love my country. I got 7 kids. I got 7 grandkids. I want the country to be right.
Absolutely.
And when I see these people doing what they're doing and destroying United States is going down.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. If we get another 4 years of this Biden progressive stuff, we're in a lot of time.
I think it's the last chance.
It's it. I'm telling you, it's over.
It's the last chance. And it's really actually a very interesting argument because I completely agree with law and order and I completely agree with what you're saying. When I got out of jail, I was analyzing because I'm a very lucky person. God has blessed me with the experience of the Romanian judicial system. So I'm trying to understand other judicial systems around the world. And I was like, well, where is fair? And you start to go down the rabbit hole a bit. Mm-hmm. And you see that there's a lot of countries that have completely different ethoses when it comes to justice. So the American idea and the British idea, the Western idea of justice is innocent until proven guilty. That's the basic idea of justice. In countries like Romania, it's more, everyone goes to jail for a while. Everybody. If you're even remotely suspected of anything, everybody goes to jail for a while. And then we'll let you out. And then in the end, unless you've really done something, you're probably going to go home. So theirs is more scattergun. It's more, you looked in a car window? Well, you didn't break in, but you're looking in, and there was a car break-in yesterday. Tough.
It might be you.
Yeah, that's how they work. Yeah. Now, that obviously comes with detriment because you end up in jail with a bunch of people who perhaps don't belong in jail. But then I look at the society here. We're in the poorest country in Europe. I walk around with $1 million watch. I had a $5 million Bugatti. I'd park it on the street. Women walk home alone at night. It's so ridiculously safe because everyone fears the law. So perhaps it's detrimental, yes, and when you're in the cell, you're like, why am I here? But if you're not emotional about the fact you got caught up in it and you look around, you're like, well, society does function. People always talk about Japan and say, Japan's so safe, Japan's so great, Japan's amazing. Yeah, because there's a 99% conviction rate.
Yeah.
You telling me that innocent people aren't going to jail with a 99% conviction rate? 100%. What's the even point of the court? The court doesn't exist. You turn up, I did that, yeah, jail. Yeah, jail. Same what happened to me. I went there and I said, TikTok, how can you human traffic someone on TikTok? TikTok doesn't even make money. Yeah, jail. They don't care. So you either fear the law or you have to fear the criminals. In the worst countries on earth, and perhaps we could say this is America currently, you have to fear both because the law will come for you if you're too big and you're telling too much truth. And the criminals will come after you if you're too rich. So you're living there with 2 enemies.
Right.
You know, that's the worst position to be in. At least in a country like Japan, you know, as long as I don't upset the law, I'll probably be okay in the world. And another thing that people just lack so much brain. If they were to come to me and say, Michael's got a new case, he's back on the streets, crime boss, they put it all over the news and tell you your past and you're a crime boss, and they say, look, here's an indictment. I'm gonna say, so wait, the police wrote this and the media wrote that. So I don't care about any of it. It's all a lie. It's all a scam because it's a one-sided story. People are going to be full-grown adults and not understand that one-sided stories always end one way. You can't ask the media or the police anything about anybody. And then the scary thing about all of this is what we were talking about earlier. If you actually do a crime, like a bad, heinous thing, you rob a grandma, they seem to let you off. They don't seem to punish you like they used to.
No.
And that's a really big rabbit hole to go down as to why they're doing that and why they're trying to make society so unsafe. Perhaps it's because the only thing the human mind will accept a reduction in freedom for is safety. The only thing that will make you say, okay, take my freedom, but make me safe. So the worse things get, the more dangerous it becomes to leave your house, you might end up agreeing to being locked in your house. And okay, you deliver my food, you deliver my bugs, and I'll stay home because it's dangerous out there. That's the only thing we'll give up freedom for is safety.
You're right.
So that's why it's getting more and more crazy by the day. El Salvador, the president of El Salvador, has proved you can fix any mess. He cleaned it all up. Mm-hmm. Are there some innocent people in jail, like we were talking earlier about Romania, Japan, etc.? Probably. But he's fixed it. I don't know if you've ever watched his speeches?
No.
Oh, El Salvador went from the most dangerous country in the Western Hemisphere to the safest.
And what length of time?
A year and a half. He just turned up, built a mega prison, said if you have a tattoo, or you're related to a gangster, or you're in a house with a gangster, you're all going to jail. And he just locked up everyone, head to toe, everybody. And now it's the safest country. And he's saying now they're going through the judicial process, they're going to do some jail. And some people who are innocent are going to eventually get out. And everyone tells me that I violated human rights. That's fine. What about the human rights of the people who are getting murdered on the streets?
Right.
We had the highest homicide rate in the world. Everyone was dying. Everyone talks about human rights, and the BBC and everyone wants to come along and ask me about human rights. I fix human rights because people can walk all around with their children now. So he took drastic measures to get something done. I'm not saying America should do that, but I'm saying I'm sure with the monumental resource they have and the amount of time they spend going after Bitcoin millionaires like Roger Ver, or in trying to convince the Romanian embassy to put me in jail for talking online, or keeping an eye on every single person who's a Trump supporter, perhaps they could, I don't know, stop grandmas getting murdered if they wanted to.
All they need to do is go back to the way it was and enforce the law. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything real drastic. They have to stop minimizing what they're doing now.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. You get a guy in organized crime, and I have to keep going back to this. They'll investigate him for 10 years for shaking down somebody for some money.
Yeah.
Not beating them, just shaking them down. Or, for gambling that the government is running now anyway, So many of my friends went to jail for gambling, and the government is in the biggest business of gambling that there is.
Of course. Yeah.
All they have to do is enforce the laws the way they used to. They don't have to do anything drastic. That's it.
Yeah.
And they won't do it.
Yeah, they won't do it. And it has to be purposeful. And that's what's scary.
When I have to tell my daughters, I have to give them pepper spray to carry around. When I tell them, when you go into the parking lot, make sure you look around you because people are waiting, by your car to grab you and either kidnap you, human trafficking.
Yeah.
That's real human trafficking.
100%.
When they throw you in the car and drive you away in your car. And that's happening in affluent neighborhoods in California, where I live. It's happening.
It's what's crazy about this? I think this is one of the reasons why they've been so determined to detriment the contribution of masculinity to society, because maybe I'm paranoid, maybe I'm crazy, but I think true masculinity, I see danger everywhere. If I walk from my car to the restaurant, my heart beats a little bit. Like if I get out of my car,
I'm the same way. I can totally relate to that.
I've got guards with guns. I've got security with me. I can't carry a weapon. I'm on bail, but I have 3 men with guns, and I still get out of the car. And I'm
the same way.
That's how I am. If you have that healthy degree of fear and protectivism inside of a society, inside of the societal mechanism for making laws, you're going to be a lot more careful about opening a border, a lot more careful about letting someone off and not giving them a cheap bail when they've done X amount of violent crime. You're going to be the kind of person who's like, no, safety first, we're going to protect this. But when you add in all this subjectivism and this garbage and this feminism and this racial, it's not his fault, or it's not her fault, or it's not this, they didn't do it, it's this, it's that, human rights, bunch of garbage, you're removing the masculine capability to just protect what it cares about.